Okay, guys. Um, Thanks for joining me, first of all, or I guess watching me after this is all done. This is my first video, not just for the Discord, but for just all together. I've just never done a video before, so forgive me if I kind of cut in and out or if I don't sound good. Um, Plus, I'm really super introverted, so anyway. Um, I also apologize for not having this video prepared last week or the past, I don't know, 20 times it seems like I need to get a video started with all the technical issues and all that. So I'm gonna just get started here. I'm gonna do a weekly update on uh, Bitcoin with a daily chart as well and a 4-hour chart. Then I'm gonna go very briefly on Ethereum and Litecoin on the weekly, just to kind of see where we're at. I know a lot of people are kind of wondering where we're going. I just saw Loom Dart and a couple other people say that they think the bottom is in, and some people think that we're just getting started here. As far as general sentiment on my side, without really going into the charts just yet, um, I'm kind of 50-50, and honestly, I mean, if you're a long-term investor or just someone that just is going to hold on long term, this really probably isn't a bad time to get in. Even if we go lower. Um, so especially on the alts. Anyway, different topic. That's kind of my opinion on that. Um, but so let's dive in here on the weekly chart. Um, Looking at this close right here that we had, I would close at 61.83, and that closing mark is what I want to look at. And honestly, it wasn't a good week, obviously, as you might know. Um, but one thing to note that I don't think a lot of people have said, that this candle is the lowest close that we've had since middle of June, which is also when we got the lowest, um, the very low of 5777 on the Coinbase chart. And I usually use Coinbase charts for the weekly and monthly updates. But as far as wicks, we've been lower. As far as the closes, we've only been lower once, so that's not really a good close. That being said, it could be a retest of this low in June. Um, so we'll see. I kind of have. I'm gonna go over these. Um, I'm gonna go over this here, kind of this falling wedge, and I can cover this later in Discord or some other time, but I personally am viewing this as a falling wedge instead of a descending triangle. There's a lot of reasons I feel that a descending triangle is more of a meme at this point. One, because you need to calculate the wicks to determine that. Two, it's really just talked about too much, and with the movements that we have, it's almost too predictable. And honestly, even if we go lower here, that doesn't necessarily make the descending wedge play out, or descending triangle rather. Um, but the falling wedge kind of follows well with the bodies instead of the wicks, um, which is also the reason why I have these blue bars here, so we can see if the wedge plays out to 100%, it would go all the way to the beginning of kind of the middle of February of next year, which is what I have here, which would be 53 bars from the start of this wick here, from our first real low early February. But I want to look at this top bar here, which is the 75% mark of this wedge, which is 3 weeks away. At that point, we'd be 39 bars in, and that's usually when a wedge will break. And that being said, when wedges do start to break, they kind of travel like this here. So I'm not saying it's going to. I'm not saying once it crosses here it could go over, or the bear, the bull market is over, the bear market is over rather, because it may not be. We could go up, all the way up here, and then, we could go all the way down, you know, beginning of February we'd be at, 4,400. I know it's not what you want. It's not definitely not what I want. Not saying that's going to happen. Saying a breakout doesn't necessarily mean the bottom is in, um, but this kind of action is something that you like to see in a bottom. You kind of like to see it round off and kind of travel upward. So that's my thought with the price action itself. Um, Kind of scrolling in a little bit. We broke this blue line is the 20 EMA. This line is the 9 EMA, and we gotta break this right here. For the A rune, I see this right here. This is the bearish line. This is the bullish line. Don't really have too much time to explain it, but I did have an article on it, so you can read up on that. But this is supposed to consolidate down if it continues the rule that it travels, and we could be due for a bullish cross right around the time that we hit the 75 mark. So this is kind of what I'm looking at, beginning of November. For the 21.7 stock that I use, we crossed bearish last week, so it's not really looking good. I'm not, as far as weekly targets. I'm not so sure we're gonna break 5.7. I'm looking at a high of about 6,500 on a Coinbase chart, and you know, I mean, uh, for bearish, I'd say right at the 6,000 mark. I mean, I believe there are a lot of buys that are between 5.8 and 6. So we'll see with that. Let's go to the daily. So the daily here's my previous order block that I had. You get more bearish consolidation to come. I mean, as long as this line right here, as long as we stay above here, I'm not really too worried. 21.7 stocks right here is starting to curl up, so that's in my opinion a good sign. One thing I do want to take note is this breaker right here. So I like to see this get retested here, and usually those do, and with being able to jump up to that breaker, we'll see that test of 6,500 that I was asking. So right now, I mean, this is not closed yet. It looks like it's trying to break out. So we'll see on that. But yeah, I'd like to see this area touched for at least a retest. Let's go on the 4 hour. Kind of got some BART action going on here. And first thing I want to show is how it follows this. I don't really know what I'm trying to call this, but I've noticed a structure with the EMAs, the 9 and the 20 EMAs, kind of sort of a dance. Just kind of dances on resistance and support, resistance, and then it'll usually break the 20. You'll shoot back down underneath it, test it as resistance for a few more days, and then break out again. So that's also why I'm thinking the 6,500 target at the order block above. But right now it's currently resisting the 920. So that might be all that we see for the rest of Monday. Here's what I want to look at up until this point here. We had a high over here and a low over here. A low down to 6,000 and a high of 62, 65. But we noticed that the bodies were starting to rest down towards the EQ, and then we finally got a wick of the EQ. So I think I think this is better, more bullish than bearish at this point. Like I said, we got the Barts coming in. Barts are usually a sign that um, buyers are not really buying or selling. It's usually the bots. So I mean, bots just kind of behave differently. So that's something I've noticed. So that's it for the Bitcoin stuff. Let's take a look at Ethereum, and I'm just going to cover the weekly on Ethereum and Litecoin. Um, but for Ethereum, it looks like we had this wedge from last month that I had mentioned before, and we had tested that. We tested it again, and notice this red order block I have here is a historic breaker from July of last year, and we've tested a second time. So this is what I said earlier about Bitcoin. We could break that wedge that I'm talking about and still retest to the same price action. So really, it isn't too big of a deal. Um, doesn't necessarily the bottom is in, but having a retest of this, the bottom of this year, could be a good sign that this could be going up. Um, I don't necessarily think so. I think we could go down a little more, um, and kind of retest the 150, or not retest. Oh yeah, go retest here about the wicks. 165. One thing I do want to note is my 21.7 has crossed bearish. And the last time that it did that was late July and in mid of May. And let's look at the mid of May. We had a significant drop here. Oh, that's not what I want. Start here. I mean, we dropped pretty significantly. Here was where the cross was. We dropped 41% onto that. So that is not good. Late July had the same thing. And we dropped 36% from the middle of September, and we're still about 60% from where we were when that started, and now we're getting ready to cross again. So I'm not saying we're going to drop another 40-50%. I mean, if we do, we're looking at sub 100. And if we're looking at sub 100, I'll tell you, I'm going to be buying pretty much everything I can. um, so that being said, Aetherium is looking at once again a bearish consolidation, looking for that cross in about 2 to 3 weeks. Let's go over to Litecoin. Can run out of time here. Oh, that's not what I want. Alright. So, Litecoin is not really looking too great either. Kind of right now, I mean, that's the lowest body that we closed on a weekly. So that's not looking that great. But we could bounce up. We're looking at 9 EMA resistance. Another bearish consolidation on the Aetherium. Stotch is also cross bearish, so I'm not really too hopeful about the Litecoin and Ethereum right now. And honestly, let's see if I can get this highlighted here. From here to here looks very similar to here to here. So if that plays out, and I honestly hate fractals because they're too easy to break. Oh, I guess not. I want again. Then the next candle could be 20%. 20% of 51 is roughly $10, so 10 to 13 bucks. So we could be looking at as much as $35, $40 at the end of this week. I don't see any indication that it would go up from here necessarily. So that's just my take on it. So that's kind of it for that's kind of it for what I got here. As far as some news, I know we had the Congress hearing last week. You might hear me tweet about that a lot. Not a big fan of the L'Oreal guy. I'm not sure if that's his name, how to say it, but wouldn't be too worried about that. If that's the best that we have going against us, I think we're doing pretty good. For the Bitfinex Tether issue, I know there's a premium on Bitfinex, and a lot of people are afraid about Tether and all that. I would be watchful, not convinced yet, but I would be watchful and take precautions. Use the true USD if you have it, or a stable coin, or if you're on Binance, pick a more stable coin, or just keep it off the exchange until you want to trade it, because you've heard it before. If you don't have the private keys, you can lose it anytime. So, or pick a exchange that has U.S. dollars or your fiat that you use. So anyway, as far as the group news, paid plans are going fine. Um, Everything's kind of on our way to launch mid-November. Pretty hopeful for that. As far as the bots that I've worked on, the bots today, doing pretty well, and looking for a timetable to get the prototype done in about 4 weeks. Trying to get a live version here for the Bitcoin by maybe the middle of December. Looking at and trying to get all four of them launched by the first week of January. So, and also apologies for the PineScript tutorial. I'm gonna have that this week and try to get that second Monte Carlo article. If you guys have any questions or any kind of suggestions for an article that you guys want, just let me know in the feedback channel. And also, I got a survey going to be coming out this week to give you guys, for just questions about our group, what you guys like, what you guys don't, what you see or like to see in the paid services that we're going to offer. And I'm going to be giving out some free trials for that. So just stay tuned for that, and I appreciate you guys tuning in this video, and I hope I can do more and better of them. Take it easy.